Hey, folks, I wanted to take a moment to welcome Dixon's Fixins to the Talking About Food family. As a private chef, I know how much time you spend in grocery stores, and we've all heard the saying, time is money. That's why at Dixon's Fixins, they deliver all your beef, chicken, pork, and seafood needs at prices that fit the average family's budget. This family-owned business is committed to providing the best USDA choice and prime steak, open-range farms chicken, butcher-certified pork, and wild-caught seafood. All their products are all natural, hormone-free, with no byproducts or steroids. They treat every family they serve as if it were their own. So sit back, relax, and let Dixon's Fixins bring the best quality food right to your door, garage, or place of business, all while cutting your grocery bills in half. Check them out today at DixonsFixins.com. That's Dixon's Fixins, bringing quality food into your home and bringing your family back to the table. Hello, Grand Strand. This is Richard Florzak, the private chef to the stars. Welcome back to Talking About Food. Remember, it's the only local food commentary show on the Grand Strand that talks specifically about restaurants, food trucks, festivals, and farmers markets. I love interviewing local chefs and local food business owners. And please remember, contrary to a restaurant chef, I cooked in a home. Yes, it was some celebrities' homes, but it was still a home. So you and I have a lot in common. And I'm sure you've heard me interview some of my celebrity friends. And like I promised, whether celebrity or not, the topic will always be food. So I have with me in the studio today, fascinating young man. He is the owner, operator of Neal's Creekhouse. His name is Zach Baker. Zach, welcome to Talking About Food.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So I've read a number of times on your website the history of Neal's, and I was wondering if you could just give the 2 million listeners a brief history of how it got from start to where you are today.
Well, Neal and Pam's, as you know it, kind of began in 1985. My dad actually owned it. It was in that building. He was a tenant in that building. And it's when the drinking age was 18. It wasn't 21. So he was selling hot dogs and beer. And that's all he sold. And the building was split down the middle. And the other side was a beachwear store, T-shirt shop,
Right.
you know. When I was born, my dad got a job offer in Greenville, which was closer to my mom's side of the family. Yeah. So we moved to the upstate when I was like 1 year old.
Yeah.
And my dad sold, his business, which was called Sam's Place at the time, to Neal in 1985. And it was originally called Neal and Lee's. Neal had a partner named Lee Bell, who eventually, he passed away. But Neal ran it for 25 years. And after Lee got out of the business and then passed away. And when he was done, Pam came on, and Neal and Pam got married, and they ran it together for a number of years. And then in 2011, Neal was getting older and just trying to get out of the business, and it became available, and I was lucky enough to purchase it at 25 years old.
So you had moved back from Greenville at the time?
I had moved back from Greenville, yes. My uncle owned a hot dog restaurant down here named Sam's Corner. Everything goes back to hot dogs, it seems.
Yeah.
But
we were just saying hello to our mutual friend, Jack Gregory, who has an absolute adoration for hot dogs. Go ahead.
Well,
and so do I.
Yeah, me too. And anyway, so at the time there was a restaurant in Litchfield, which is, south down in Pawleys Island. And I came down here. I was a pharmaceutical sales rep actually out of college. And I got laid off during the subprime mortgage crisis, the recession. And I came down here and started making hot dogs one summer, and I never left. And then I befriended a guy who, told me about Neal and Pam's coming available. And, I never ever thought in my wildest dreams I'd be doing it, but it just all came to fruition.
Wow. So you go from making hot dogs to buying Neal and Pam's?
Correct. Yes.
So, but Neal and Pam's is not Neal's Creekhouse.
No, Neal's Creekhouse is our newest restaurant.
Right, which we'll get into later, but I just wanted to
Neal and Pam's is in Surfside. It's on Ocean Boulevard. And it's been there for 40 years. We celebrated 40 years in January.
Right. And everybody knows it. I just wanted to clarify that for the people who maybe have just moved down here or whatever.
It's a party.
Yeah. And everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So you buy Neal and Pam's. Do you keep it? What was the food like at that point?
At that point, they had a hamburger, a cheeseburger, chicken wings, and chicken fingers and French fries, and that was the whole menu.
Was it good?
Yeah, the burgers were fantastic.
Yeah.
I never changed the burgers. I just came up with different iterations of the burger,
Yeah.
They just had a basic hamburger, basic cheeseburger, and, we started doing things like surf and turf burgers and, different melts and stuff.
How did the community accept you? I mean, Neal and
at first,
Pam's.
Well, they kind of had an aging demographic because Neal and Pam were a little bit older when I took over. And at first, I think that the regulars they had were highly skeptical of me being a 25-year-old kid. They probably thought I was a punk, and was going to ruin their dive bar. But eventually, they warmed up to me and supported me for the last 15 years.
Do you think you lost any customers in the beginning?
Maybe like right out of the gate, there were some people that, that left, but I think eventually they all sort of came back around. And once they gave it a try, they were back. And it's kind of always been, I call it the social epicenter of Surfside. So if you live in that area and you want to go to happy hour and have a beer or, have a quick, easy, non-pretentious outing, Neal and Pam's is a pretty safe bet.
So you just bumped up the menu a little bit at that time?
Gradually over the years, when I started, we had a household oven and stovetop, 2 tabletop fryers, and a 2-foot flat top grill. And over the years, as we've added on to the kitchen, we've had greater capacity to cook more items. But we were kind of limited by equipment and space and all that at first. But you close down for a few weeks in the off season every few years and upgrade and do some remodels. And as we have remodeled the inside of the building, we've also remodeled our menu.
For how long did you own Neal and Pam's before Neal's Creekhouse?
So I've been there for 15 years at Neal and Pam's, and we opened Neal's Creekhouse March 4th of last year. So we've been open just a little over a year at Neal's Creekhouse.
I just want to read something from the website. Two things just jumped out at me, having a chef's background. Zach took over Neal and Pam's with no intention of making drastic changes, but instead honoring tradition while making incremental improvements. Neal never really sold much food to speak of. Zach aimed to change that and began selling food, lots of it. So is that actually what happened? That is incremental changes.
Well, the incremental changes thing, that was for 2 reasons. The first reason, I didn't have any money to make any sweeping changes, so we had to do it incrementally. And the second being that I knew we were missing the mark. We're right down there on Ocean Boulevard, and we just weren't capturing any kind of diners. It was just drinkers, and which was great. I wanted to expand into that dining space and actually get some folks in there eating. And
it was probably to your benefit, looking back, correct me if I'm wrong, that you did. You were only capable of making incremental changes. You could have dumped a whole bunch of money in for a style of food that maybe didn't go over.
That didn't go up, yeah. And a lot of it was out of necessity. Like we, when I first got there, we didn't serve breakfast, but the hotel had a kitchen fire across the street, and they used to sell breakfast. And there was a restaurant on the pier called Nibbles, and they did not renew their lease with the town of Surfside. The hotel had no breakfast, and so I saw an opportunity there, and then we began selling breakfast. We were the only place on the boulevard selling it. And so, now here we are some years later, and we sell a ton of breakfast. We're like the fun breakfast spot where you come for Bloody Marys and mimosas and all that.
Wow, that's really sharp and quite entrepreneurial. Let's shift over to Neal's Creekhouse. It is, in my opinion, the only restaurant. It's not my opinion. It is the only restaurant I've ever seen that was busy right out of the gate. I mean, I live close to the marsh. I'm back and forth going down to my boat, and I would see this restaurant was vacant, the parking lot, for, I don't know, months, I think. And then all of a sudden, it's packed.
Yeah, that was the goal.
How does that happen?
Well, I've been at Neal and Pam's for so long, like I said, and I actually have lived in Murrells Inlet or on the south end of the beach for a long time, and I'd like to think we enjoy a pretty good reputation at Neal and Pam's over the years. And there were a lot of folks would come up to Surfside and get their cheeseburger fix that lived in Murrells Inlet or Pawleys Island that I was friends with, and they were sort of pining for that in Murrells Inlet, and I would get them at lunchtime, and now I get them at breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the Inlet.
So you had a great following to start, and they followed you to Neal's Creekhouse.
Yep, that's kind of the short and skinny of it.
That's amazing. That's such a great story.
We're lucky there.
Well, it says a lot about you. Speaking of that, I have been in the private chef world and restaurant business for decades. And one of the most difficult things for me was always customer service. And I have to say, of all the places I've been to in the Grand Strand, I think that Neal's Creekhouse has the best customer. You have a lot of employees, and I have never been in that restaurant where I didn't feel like I was part of the family. Do you have a technique for that? Because you couldn't have brought all of your employees from Neal and Pam's over to Neal's Creekhouse. So how do you do that?
Well, when we opened Neal's Creekhouse, we had a job fair and we had 300 applicants.
Wow.
So we had the luxury of being discerning with who we hired, and I think we pretty much got it right. We were able to hire a lot of really good people, and philosophy on customer services, you are not waiters and waitresses. You are brokers of joyous experiences.
Oh,
and
nice.
If there's something on the menu that you don't like the way that it's prepared, or you want us to customize something to your liking, if we have the ability, we will always do that. And I think it's just a very customer first mantra. Our system is a little bit different in the way that we do it. We don't assign one section to one server and just expect them to handle it. The restaurant's broken up into sections that are served and waited on by teams of people. So they all work as a team in those respective sections.
That's a clever way of going about it. Do you have an executive chef?
We've got a guy named Chris who's been with me for a while, and he's sort of the prep guy. He comes in, he makes, I call him the soup chef. He makes all the soups. That's what he loves, making soup more than anything.
That's great.
But he makes all the soups and, all of our homemade dressings and, various sauces. I've got another guy, David, and he handles, pretty much everything over on the salad side. And Nick handles everything.
So then would it be safe to say
it's chef by committee? Yeah.
But are you have a saying in this, which leads me to my next question. How do you go about choosing menu selections from Neal and Pam's to Neal's Creekhouse is quite a bit different. I mean, there's sizable menu.
Yeah. Well, Neal, the kitchen at Creekhouse is enormous, which gave us the freedom and the ability to do some things that we'd always wanted to do at Neal and Pam's.
Yeah.
But our goal was to create a menu that was South Carolinian, Southern centric,
right?
But affordable, not pretentious. I mean, the most expensive thing on the menu, I think, is like $23.
Yeah.
So it's a giant seafood platter.
Right. Are the dishes there mostly your choice, or is it a communal thing that you decide on?
It's kind of it's a trial and error thing, and I give our main guys sort of have the autonomy to try new things out in the kitchen. If they bring me something that's good, we'll roll with it. For example, we just added something. It's called the sandlapper roll, and we pretty much take an egg roll and slap pimento cheese and pulled pork and collard greens in it, and we dip it in bacon jam. And it was just sort of born out of boredom, and now it's like one of our best-selling items. So
it doesn't seem like you, Zach Baker, owner of Neal and Pam's, and Neal's Creekhouse can do anything wrong. So that'll lead me to my next story. Give us all one nightmare story you've had to deal with, because it's funny. I have a vision of what I think the listeners want to hear, but I can't tell you how many people come up to me and they'll say, I love when you talk to restaurant owners and chefs, but we love when we hear what goes on behind the scenes. I'm
good for, I'd say, one flip out about every 3 months or so.
Yeah.
I try to keep it light back there. I always say that, I'm not Gordon Ramsay and this isn't Hell's Kitchen, but we do try to uphold a standard. Like when we first opened, we had one waffle iron, and the first Sunday I figured out that was not going to cut it. Now we have 4, and so there've been times where we have been drowning, but we've always managed to stay just above the surface. And now we got it pretty dialed in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's because they've got a great owner who knows how to manage a restaurant.
Thank you. Another thing that I love that I read on your website, and I wish that I had come up with it because it really encompasses what I believe. And that is that your mantra is food doesn't have to be pretentious to be delicious. I just love that. I wish I could steal that line from you. And I see that in your place. I've often talked about being a chef. You often walk a very thin line between serving great food presented properly and on the other side, just being over the top pretentious. And you guys do it well over there. You also give back to the community, very, very philanthropic. I love the story about the Thanksgiving dinners. If you could just mention that for a second.
The Thanksgiving dinner at Neal and Pam's is one of our favorite days of the year. And I can't really take full credit for that, but it's something that we've carried on. Neal and Pam did it for years.
But you continue it.
Yeah, we continued, and it's sort of, we'll call it a modified potluck. Like, we handle the big ticket items. We do turkey, dressing, gravy, mac and cheese, and like sweet potato casserole. And then we tell everyone else, bring a dish. And, that's one of those things where the crowd just gets bigger and bigger every year. It's complimentary, it's fun, and everyone generally contributes something, whether the one thing we always have left over is desserts. So if anyone's listening next Thanksgiving,
why'd you have to tell that to me for?
It's always, we've got about 10 pumpkin pies left over every year. God. But they get eaten. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, just call me.
But it's a great event. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Tell us about your new adventure.
I am getting ready to partner up with a gentleman named Salvador Villampanado, and he has owned and operated a chain of Mexican restaurants in the area called El Cerro Grande.
Know him well.
Yeah, for years and years. Very popular, very successful. I think they've got something like 16 in this area, and his restaurant group has something like 30 restaurants overall. They have their own distribution facility. They actually don't use traditional purveyors, and they service most of the Mexican restaurants in Eastern, North, and South Carolina. So that's where we'll be getting a lot of our Mexican centric items from. We're going to open a restaurant down on the south end of the Marsh Walk called Sloppy Jose's Cantina.
That's cool.
It's going to be very family driven. There's a big pirate ship playground over there. We're going to do theme nights for the families.
I keep my boat in that marina right out front. And when I heard you guys were going in there, I was just jazzed.
Yeah, we're going to be home of the $5 all day margarita.
Wow.
People ask what kind of food you're going to have. I say, well, tacos, fajitas, burritos. Like, we're obviously going to have all the Mexican stuff, and it's going to have a little different flavor profile than El Cerro, but we're going to add some Caribbean stuff, and it's going to be a little more varied of a menu.
Well, with your expertise of not pretentious but delicious, I'm sure this will be as successful as your others. Anything else that you would like to let the listeners know?
I would just like to express gratitude. I never thought that we'd be where we are, opening a third location. It gets more difficult with each location, but it also gets a little bit easier. And we have the pleasure of making a lot of new friends and employing a lot of new great people. So we're looking forward to that. We plan on being in Murrells Inlet for quite some time. So thank you for asking, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I think I can speak for all of the people here in the area. We're glad you're here. And,
I thank you for all your support. I see you in there quite often. With Jack, with our buddy.
Yeah, you bet. Not only, are you serving the community, but you're employing a ton of people. Consistently one of the area's largest Toys for Tot depots, host of the annual Polar Plunge for rescue animals, and countless other community charitable efforts. Folks, I never saw that in Los Angeles, which makes me yet that much more grateful to live here. That's Zach Baker of Neal's Creekhouse. They're at 3797 17 Business in Murrells Inlet. Zach, thanks so much for coming in to talk.
Man, anytime. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this.
Good.
Fun.
Good. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, that was Zach Baker, owner of Neal and Pam's in Surfside, and also Neal's Creekhouse in Murrells Inlet. He ran out of here. It wasn't until he left that I realized we didn't even talk much about some of the selections on his menu, so I'll do it on my own. But boy, he's busy. He had to run out real quick. Can you blame him? I mean, the guy's got two right. I worked 80 hours a week in my restaurant in Los Angeles, had 50 seats, and we were only open at dinner. I can't imagine how this guy gets it done. He's got Neal and Pam's in Surfside, and Neal's Creekhouse, which must have 200 seats. It's unbelievable. I wanted to tell you all about a couple of items that they have on the menu. I just love this place. It's really cool. I mean, what I like about it, and I didn't get into this too much with him. Maybe we'll have him back again, but this guy's driven. He's in and he's out, and I don't blame him. They have the standard fare that you would find in most restaurants along the Grand Strand here, especially along the Marsh. But there's always a cool little twist to it. It's never exactly the way you see it in most places. There's always this neat little twist, and I just love when they do that. One of the things I remember when I first went in there, one of the things that jumped out at me was a breakfast sandwich. It's called the Old Reliable. Big, thick hunk of fried bologna with a fried egg and cheese on Texas toast. I mean, that's cool stuff. But also on the hangover specials, which are breakfast specials for just that, for hangovers. I mean, you don't have to have a hangover. I didn't have a hangover when I went in, but I had the redneck casserole. Does it get any better than that? House-made corned beef hash, over easy eggs, smoked cheddar, chive, and hollandaise sauce. Man, is that good. A perfect example of what Zach so beautifully says. It doesn't have to be pretentious to be delicious. Anyway, they've got burgers, they've got seafood, fried seafood, broiled seafood, all really good stuff. As a matter of fact, the first time I went in there was with my buddy Jack Gregory, and he turned me on to this. And this goes back, this is a great example. This goes back to what Zach was saying about if you have a special order, if they have it, the ingredients, they'll put it together for you. Anyway, it was an appetizer called Deconstructed Irish Nachos. They didn't have it on the menu, but Zach came over and said, you know what, we'll put that together for you. We've got it. And what it is, the ingredients of a Reuben sandwich on top of homemade potato chips. So this basket of potato chips comes with corned beef, sauerkraut, Swiss cheese, and Thousand Island dressing. It was just amazing. And I'm so blown away by the creativity in this restaurant. It's a good place. You could sit outside, and the thing that's so cool, I've been there a dozen times. You walk in, it's crowded, but there's always a place to sit, and the people are always happy. Just love that place. Can't wait to go back there. Anyway, that's Neal's Creekhouse. Hang out for a while. Be back on the other side. It's going to get interesting. All right, folks, welcome back to Talking About Food. I have someone on the line with me today. He's calling from New Orleans. He's been on before. He's one of my favorite guests, and I like to call him a good friend as well. His name is Chef Joe Bonaparte. He is the executive director of the International Culinary Institute at HGTC, Horry Georgetown Technical College. Joe, welcome back to Talking About Food.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always good talking to you.
Yeah, if you could just give the listeners a little update as to where you have been in the last, let's see, must be like 10 days, what you've been doing.
A week ago, I took 12 students and a faculty member to Paris for a week, our study abroad.
Wow.
And it's a really cool trip. It's supposed to be, we arrive on Sunday and leave on Saturday, but a truck hit our plane in Philadelphia and damaged the cargo door. And so we had to spend the night in Philadelphia. So took the students downtown Philadelphia and we spent the night and we got to see a parade, Irish, St. Patty's Day parade and stuff.
Did you turn them on to some cheesesteaks?
Some of them ate cheesesteaks. They did, and Philadelphia pretzels, which I learned are much different than New York pretzels.
How are they different?
They're like squished. They're not as big, like as tall, as big and like heart shaped or round. They're almost rectangular.
Oh,
it's like they pack them on the sheet on the pan or something, so they don't. The shape they like stick together when they're baking, and then they pull them apart. It's interesting.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Do they taste the same?
Pretty similar.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
so anyway,
New York soft pretzel. So anyway, we got out there on Monday, and they go to school for 4 days while they're there in Paris. And generally they'll go Monday through Thursday. They missed about half the day Monday because we didn't get in till Monday morning. But they take classes at the Ritz Escoffier Cooking School.
Wow.
Which is a very small little school, but it's at the Ritz Hotel.
Yeah.
At Place Vendôme, one historic hotels in the world. And in the bottom of it, where the kitchens are underneath, they put the school in a couple of kitchens. And it's a hotel that Cesar Ritz and Auguste Escoffier started together. They had worked on some hotels previously in London. And, so Ritz is the front of house guy and Escoffier, the kitchen guy, the father of classic food, cuisine.
Right?
Yeah. And so it's really cool because Escoffier, worked in those kitchens, designed place, had a restaurant there. And they go there and they work with some very talented chefs and cook some really cool food, great ingredients. I've been taking students there for a while. Then every afternoon when they get done around 2 PM. We take them sightseeing all over, it's a very food city. So we go to a ton of cookware stores and everybody's buys all kinds of chef's tools, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And copper pots and this and that and the other thing. And take them to a lot of food stores, but they buy a lot of food and to bring back, and pastries and we go all over town to the outdoor markets and with eating dinner, because they have breakfast in the hotel, they eat lunch at school. Dinners, I start out very basic, just regular bistro stuff the first couple nights, and then we go to a small place, about 40 seats or less, maybe 35. And it's a trend that started, I don't know, it was like 10, 15 years ago, called bistronomy, where it was like some chefs who were doing more refined food at nicer places, or maybe even had Michelin stars or worked at those places, wanted to do food that was great, but make it much more accessible to everyday people.
Yeah, that's a great
you know.
approach. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's a thing they call bistronomy, kind of bistro and gastronomy put together.
Mhm.
And there's a place that a guy I found out about years ago, and actually first went with my wife and daughter when we were just on a trip over there. And so for 5 years now, I've been taking the students to this place. It's like our Tuesday night dinner. It's so cool. It's just this little open kitchen, a couple people in there. The chef's always in there. We never know what we're going to eat. They just send out food.
Oh, I love places like that.
Yeah, and it's it fills up. It's packed. I can't believe they take us. It's really interesting. One year, the year after COVID that we went in 22, I think it was the chef, and he had like 2 people, but one of them was just standing around in the kitchen, kind of.
Yeah.
And our party of 14, a full rest of the restaurant, and he plated, and he was doing finishing and plating everything himself and not missing a beat. It was amazing, because when we talked to him after dinner, and he had the same problems that was going on here in the U.S., shortage of staff. But then the next night we go to a Michelin 1-star restaurant at the Bristol Hotel, and that's on Wednesdays. And Thursdays we go to a 3-star restaurant, and we took him to a chef that I followed for a long time. He used to be one of the most cutting edge chefs in France, called Pierre Gagné.
Mm-hmm.
And every dish that, like, his kind of style is, every dish is really 3 or 4 dishes. It's always multiple compositions.
Yeah.
And they took such good care of us. The chef came out multiple times. They took us in small groups back to the kitchen to see how, with the chef to see everybody working and how it works and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool for the students.
That's remarkable. That is remarkable.
Yeah. And the same deal. We don't know what we're going to eat. It's whatever.
Yeah.
We just want the tasting menu. And I was like, if there's truffles still around, winter truffles from Perigord, could you please include some truffles in one of the dishes?
Wow.
They put them in almost every single dish. There was probably 10 to 15 dishes that we ate that had truffles in them, including some of the desserts. A lot of pictures on Facebook. On Instagram, I think I had to break it up into 2 different posts because it was too many pictures of the one meal. You know what? They charged us, because I told them when I was talking to my phone, it's okay. I know there's an upcharge on truffles and all that. They charged us $6 extra a person.
Oh,
€6, like $7 extra a person.
Wow.
Yeah, for hundreds of dollars. I felt really good. I felt good for my students, and they cared that these were, future culinarians and stuff, and that they were really interested. Because they could have easily charged me €200 a person, and I wouldn't have thought anything of it for the amount of truffles.
Let me ask you a few questions. In regards to the group that you take from the school, you said there were 12 students.
Yes.
How are they chosen to go?
They apply. See, the students, they have to pay some of the fee, some of the cost of the trip.
Right.
And so, because I want them to have skin in the game, the president was like, why don't you try to make it free? I'm like, because then there's no commitment,
That hold on a second. That is so brilliant. I never in a million years would have thought of that, but what a great idea. So you had suggested to the president that they pay a small portion of what it'll cost, and then they'll be more committed. That's terrific. So it's 12 of them. And so is it basically whoever could maybe afford that.
And they have to write an essay. They have to get, I think we have them get 2 letters of recommendation, either from faculty or work or something. Then we go through and we kind of order them. Yes, no, maybe kind of thing, like you do resumes. And then generally we give them it's about a month or two, depends how prompt I am on getting the applications out and everything. I plan the whole thing myself. I don't use travel company or anything. They do fundraising. And the more the students are involved with fundraising, the less their trip is going to cost.
Oh, man. That's brilliant
and
stuff.
So they put together auction items. They get donations and stuff. So it's really cool, but it is a lot. It's a lot of work, and
it sounds like it. So you were in Paris for 6 days. You came home for a day or so, and you flew out. Where are you? Where did you fly to?
Left first thing Monday morning to go to New Orleans. I have accreditation down here. Something my president nominated me for. Volun told me to do.
Yeah. You make sure that they are up to par.
Right. And so this is the same organization that would accredit University of South Carolina, Clemson. They accredit or Georgetown Technical College. They accredit big, huge schools and small schools. It's a very high level accreditation. They needed a culinary person on this trip, and
that was you.
Visit a few sites. Yeah, so that was me.
Because you're certainly not busy enough. So you'll be home tonight. You're on a layover. Yeah. Thanks for calling in. There's something happening next week at your school. What is that?
Yeah. So next week we have a certified master chef coming in. There's 71 certified master chefs by the American Culinary Federation.
What does that mean, actually? How does a master chef differ from an accredited chef from any culinary institute?
The American Culinary Federation has different accreditation levels based on years of experience and positions held, tests, both on paper and cooking. You have to take some classes and do this to climb the certification chart. So the master chef is the highest level, and the final thing involved with that is a 10-day cooking test.
Wow.
And it's judged by other master chefs, and it's a very. I've worked with chefs who have done it in the past. I've worked with chefs who have done it and not passed, and have done it more than once and not passed, who are excellent chefs. There's a little bit of politics involved in it.
Yeah.
If you have good relations with other master chefs, it helps tremendously. If some people just don't have the personality to have good relations with others.
And what will that master chef be doing at the school next week?
We worked together at a previous job before he was a master chef.
Oh, so you have a good relationship with him.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we were in Germany together for, I think it was like 10 days for the Olympics in 2012 for the Culinary Olympics.
Yeah.
Where he won some medals. So I thought it'd be cool to reach out and see if he would come, and he's a great mentor, but he's just got a great story of his success, and he's super talented. And so we try to bring in guest chefs to give our students talks, to cook with them, maybe do demonstrations. But he's going to talk about how he became a master chef and what drove him, and for those that might be interested. Then we're going to do dinners with him, his menu that he put together on Tuesday and Thursday in the restaurant next week. A few more weeks, we have a graduate who's up in New York now. I worked for Thomas Keller for 6 years.
Wow.
You're just trying to get a spark into the students to want to achieve a little more than maybe they think is possible.
I was just going to say that it's sometimes hard to imagine that in a small community that we live in, that there is such a wonderful culinary academy run by a terrific executive chef, Chef Joe Bonaparte. What he just explained, he himself arranges trips to Paris, where some of the students can accompany him, work there, get the knowledge of food from other countries, have master chefs come in to talk and work with the students, I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal.
They don't know what's possible. And the thing, I tell you what made it my day, I guess, on this last trip was the people that run the Ritz school over there.
Yeah.
And the chefs in there, they were talking to me one day, and they're just like, basically what they were saying is, you don't really understand how special what you're doing is.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't encounter this much,
Yeah.
that people are opening these doors and giving these opportunities to their students. And, last year I had one of the Ritz chefs come over and work with my faculty. And this summer I got the same, and I'm working on bringing one of their chefs in to work with the students and do dinners for the public next year and
Cool.
next fall, maybe.
Very cool.
So a lot of cool stuff. It's a great relationship.
Well, the students may not know at this point how lucky they are, but I certainly do. I have attended a number of culinary academies nationally and internationally, and I can tell you from experience that the Horry Georgetown Technical International Culinary Academy is tops. It is fantastic. If anybody is even considering attending a culinary academy, there really is no need to go into, near bankruptcy to pay some of the exorbitant amounts of tuition that are charged in some of the places around the country. You have one right here in the Grand Strand, and that is the International Culinary Academy. Chef Joe, I know you have to jump onto another flight before you get home. I just want to say on behalf of all of the listeners how much we appreciate you taking the time, and you have very little of it.
Oh, thanks. Thank you for having interest and for doing what you're doing. And,
yeah. I just want to give back, and with your help, hopefully I do. Chef Joe Bonaparte. Yeah. From the International Culinary Academy, he is he's tops. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Richard. I'll talk to you soon.
You bet. And that's gonna wrap up the show for today. How great was Zach Baker? Man, interesting guy, hard working. Make sure you guys check out Neal and Pam's. Everybody knows Neal and Pam's, but also Neal's Creekhouse. It's a great place. And then we had Chef Joe Bonaparte on. That guy's amazing too. I mean, he just loves what he does. He loves the students. God, I'm just so lucky to be able to have a show like this and be able to converse with local chefs, business people. I was thinking just the other day, it just seems like such a short time ago, I was cooking for Jennifer Garner. I'd go over there in the mornings, cook food for her before I headed over to my full-time job at Mel Gibson's. But, she'd be having a workout when I got there, and I'd start cooking away, getting ready to put some stuff in her fridge for a couple of days. She'd come back in, make herself some oatmeal, sit up on the counter, chat with me while I'm cooking. And who would have expected that just when it seems like a few short years later, I'd be living in this beautiful place called the Grand Strand, being able to hopefully give back to the community some of the things that I've learned, be able to bring chefs and business owners in. God, I'm such a lucky guy. So glad to be here. Thanks for listening, everybody.